All right, here we go. Week 3, deep dish football games of the week as I go through on IHSA.org. Week 3 games of the week. Make sure you follow Coach Big Pete and Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Again, my email is coachbigpetefp@gmail.com if you have any questions. And a quick reminder that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I'm not taking any donations or tips or any of that. Go straight to St. Jude's Children's Hospital and leave a donation there. Again, it goes to a good fight against ending childhood cancer. Be sure you check it out on St. Jude's. I'll have the link on the bottom. But September, you see the yellow ribbon all over. That is because of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month this September. All right, so let's go into week 3. Big game first is I think that a lot of people are talking about, especially in this area, just because of how large the alumni bases are. Nazareth versus Fenwick, that's going to be a huge game. I think more for the alumni than the kids. Um, again, uh, Nazareth, they got that first win last week. Fenwick looks great with Caden Cobb at quarterback, and of course J.J. McCarthy and Nazareth. That is going to be one of the bigger matchups in the state of Illinois. And again, I really like Nazareth because it's at a home game, and I like that passing attack. And let's see how the running goes. The offensive line, they had a little bit of sketchy things in the first week. We'll see how the third week happens with Nazareth offensive line, as we talked about. All right, next one. Kingston versus North Boone is another big game in the Big Northern Conference. As I go down, Stillman Valley, Winnebago, big game for Stillman Valley after last week's huge win over Bryan. I really am looking towards Stillman Valley. Sorry for the sneeze. I do apologize. Stillman Valley versus Winnebago, and the sneeze will not be edited out. I guarantee you that. Next, Champaign. I'm trying to see. Sorry about that. Champaign Central versus Peoria Notre Dame, another big game. Um, see how it goes. Two teams, especially Peoria, they had a big loss against Peoria. Um, it's going to be an interesting game, Peoria Notre Dame versus Champaign. Definitely a game I'm looking forward to as well. Champaign, I'm trying to, sorry about that. Um, yeah, just going through this stuff again. I apologize. Um, Fairfield at Chester, that's an interesting game. Chester had a good season last season. Fairfield is looking like the top dog. They're having their big wins after 2 weeks. Fairfield, check them out. Definitely a team to watch out in the Black Diamond Conference, especially in 3A, as they are ranked in the polls. Salem at Columbia. Columbia is ranked. We'll see what Salem has. This is a big game for Salem Wildcat football. All right. Central A&M at Tuscola, another huge game, especially with Central A&M. They're ranked. Tuscola won the Cola Wars last week against Arcola. Definitely a game to watch out as well. So it should be an interesting game. Springfield at Glenwood Chatham, that's a huge game. Springfield High School, Rashid Rochelle, he is having a wonderful season after 2 games. He is a player to keep an eye out for, class of 2022, against the Glenwood Chatham, who is just an absolute beast in the Central State 8. Definitely something to keep an eye out for as well. I didn't touch on this last week, but I wish I should have. I should right now. Clay Bruno from Rochester for 7 touchdowns last week. Definitely keep an eye out for Rochester. Clay Bruno, Derek Leonard, he's got another great quarterback on his hands. So yeah, not that much going on that with the whole CPS thing. Um, yeah, still some of the big non-conference games that the CPS teams are playing. Batavia at Lake Park is the football game of the week. Batavia is going to be heavily favored, but I think Lake Park could upset them. But again, they're going to have to play the game of their lives on a Friday night. St. Charles North versus Wheaton North is another huge game. Wheaton North, they're 2-0. This could be a big statement game for Wheaton North. They're trying to prove something as they go against St. Charles North, who's coming off a loss against Bolingbrook. I'm excited about the game. Again, let's see how Wheaton North does. If they win this game, that's something to. That's going to be a good. That's going to be something to watch, as well. Prairie Ridge and Huntley is always a huge game. That's a game to look forward to, as well. Burlington Central at McHenry could be a big game for Burlington Central if they get that win. Again, Burlington Central was my surprise pick for Fox Valley. Very interesting team. Crystal Lake South, they need this win against Crystal Lake Central. Let's go to Illini Prairie Conference and see how IVC at Pontiac. That's a huge game. That's a huge game for IVC. They're proving people quickly. 2 weeks, 2 wins. Bring on the third team. This is a big game for them as they face Pontiac IVC, the Ghosts. St. Thomas More, Monticello, another big game. Monticello needs that win as well. Yeah. Coal City at Herscher. Herscher needs to do something. I think the big upset when they lost to Central Clifton as well. Piatone, Reed Custer, definitely Piatone's looking great. Lyle at Mantino. Lyle's 2-0, another interesting team. For the Interstate 8, Canelan versus Sycamore. That's a huge game. Big game for both teams. Canelan's looking good. So is Sycamore, as always. And Sandwich versus LaSalle Peru. Sandwich, they're 2-0, a surprising 2-0, but a good surprise in Sandwich. Johnsburg at Richmond Burden, a huge game. Again, I like Richmond Burden a lot. I like their quarterback. I like their passing attack. But I also, of course, if you're talking about Richmond Burden, if you're talking about that conference, the running attack is unbelievable as well. It's going to be a great game as Johnsburg takes on Richmond Burden. And Paris versus Lawrenceville Saturday. It's another game to look out for as well. Robinson at Flora. I'm very interested in what Flora can do if they can get that. I think this is going for their third win, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be interesting. Bishop McNamara against Riverside Brookfield. Another big game in the Metro Suburban Blue for Bishop Mac. They need a win, and this is a big testing factor for the Riverside Brookfield team and Coach Curtin. Wheaton Academy at IC always is a good game, but IC, I think, is going to win that game. They're going to go with the 3-0. That's my personal feeling. For the Metro Suburban Red, Chicago Christian looking good. They got a good chance at getting, I believe 2-1 if I'm not mistaken. Elmwood Park at Ridgewood's going to be a huge game in that red division. That's going to be a huge game in the red as well. Yeah, they're looking to both those. Elmwood Park to me is looking like one of the top teams in that division. They had a tough loss against Lyle. Chicago Christian, they've got one loss. Ridgewood, if I'm not mistaken, has 2 losses. It's looking really good. It's looking really good for Elmwood Park. Really is. Dunlap at Pekin, another good game. Morden at Canton is another huge game for especially for Canton. Lakes Libertyville at Stevenson. Stevenson needs this one bad. Stevenson needs to beat Libertyville. Libertyville, I think they're 1-1 now. This is a huge game for both teams. Definitely a game to check out. Ottawa Marquette versus Kirkland. Like I talked about, Ottawa Marquette is a team on a destiny run right now, and especially in the 1A when they get into the playoffs. Definitely a team to look out for. Hanahu versus Freeport is a huge game. Big game for Freeport. If they can pull off the W, that'd be huge for the Pretzel football. Antioch against Grays Lake North, another good game as well. Antioch, I believe Afen's coming back for the full game. Should be a very interesting. Should be an interesting game as well. Dupac is good. They're going against Dakota. Lena Winslow, East Dubuque, another good game, and NUIC. Amboy and Forston, very interested to see how Forston does. And EPC versus West Carroll, interesting too, as well. Porter is turning some heads. So Porter at Athens, that's a huge game. Athens looks really good this season. Williamsville at Auburn. Williamsville's got a team, definitely a ranked team as well. Pleasant Plains at Riverton. Pleasant Plains definitely needs a win right now. Seneca at Dwight, big game for Seneca and Dwight. Um, both teams need a win, and that's going to be a huge matchup as Seneca faces Dwight. Either team's can get into the playoffs this year. Greenville at Carlinville. I like Carlinville if they get into the playoffs. That's a team that's very interesting as well. Bremen versus Fordham Fractional North, another good game to be interested in as well. Shepherd versus Rivas. Shepherd had a big win against Wheaton St. Francis last week. We'll see if Shepherd can build off something off that win. We'll see what happens. Bradley Bourbonnais versus Lincoln Way East. Lincoln Way East is going to come in favored, but Bradley Bourbonnais, they could prove something here. This would be a big proving ground game for them. Lincoln Way West, Sandburg. That'd be a big game for Sandburg if they can get that W as well. Andrew, home with Flossmoor, another game that's interesting as well. Be a very interesting game to watch. Upstate 8, Glenbard South versus Bartlett. That's a big game. That's a big game for Coach Chrissy and those Raiders. Bartlett is coming off of a loss. Two teams. Bartlett needs this win. This is a huge win for Bartlett. It's going to be a very interesting game in Upstate 8. No doubt about that. DGS versus Willowbrook is always interesting. York at DGN, a good game. York definitely needs a win. OPRF at Lions Township, interesting game as well. Very interesting game as well to watch. Sterling versus Rock Island Ulm, interesting game. Geneseo at Galesburg, that's another game. Rock Island at Moline, another game. Moline lost last week to Benedict Academy, if I'm not mistaken. So this would be a huge game for both teams as they are staring at 1-1. And all right, let's get into St. Rita versus Loyola Academy Saturday. Big game for St. Rita. Loyola's looking great again this year. Another interesting game for them. St. Ignatius versus Benedict Academy. If Benedict Academy can get that win, watch out. Breeze Matter Day at Eltoff Catholic. That's another game to look out for. See how Eltoff Catholic responds in this week against Breeze Catholic. Breeze Matter Day, I'm sorry, apologize. Simeon, Lincoln Park. We'll see how that goes. That's an interesting game. Lincoln Park, they talk a lot on Twitter. We'll see what happens. Taft versus Phillips, big game if Taft can get that W against the Phillips team. Phillips looks great. Taft looks great. Brand new field for Taft High School, and they're becoming a program. That coaching staff has worked wonders with Taft, so be interesting to see. Deerfield at Rolling Meadows, very interesting. Rolling Meadows. East St. Louis at Neuqua Valley. That's a big game for East St. Louis and Nico Valley, but I'm going to have to go a little bit with East St. Louis on that one. We'll see how Nico Valley's secondary responds to East St. Louis. I'll tell you what, East St. Louis is traveling. They're traveling a lot this year. Um, I'll tell you, it's great for that East St. Louis team. They can get another W going up north. That'd be huge for East St. Louis. I consider them one of the best teams in the state. That's my personal feeling. Maine West versus Hoffman Estates. That's another big game against two rising coaching staffs and two teams that are going to be in the playoffs. So definitely a big game as Maine West takes on Hoffman Estates. Uh, Highland Park at Buffalo Grove. Highland Park definitely needs a win in this game. Buffalo Grove also needs another win. So it'd make for an interesting game as well. A lot of teams playing out of state teams again in week 3. Providence Catholic at Brother Rice, a huge game for both teams. It'll be interesting to see how Brother Rice performs against Providence's defense. Providence offensive line against that great Brother Rice defensive line. Interesting. Niles Notre Dame versus Marist, another big game as well. Be interesting again to see how Niles Notre Dame, their start quarterback, performs against that Marist defense. Again, another out-of-state game. Geez, we got a lot of out-of-state games. What about that? Hillcrest versus Richards, another big game as well. Keep an eye out for that game. Hillcrest, they're 2-0. Richards 2-0. Hillcrest could give Richards a run for their money. No doubt about that. Um, Hinsdale Central versus Hinsdale South is always a good rivalry game. Keep an eye out for that one. Marengo, Rich East at Marengo. Marengo's looking good. Their star running back who got an offer from Illinois, he ripped off 5 touchdowns last week. Definitely a kid to keep an eye out for in that team as well. And I talked about Montini versus Mount Carmel. No, I did not. Montini versus Mount Carmel is a huge game. I'm going to give the slight favorite on Mount Carmel. Very interesting again in the trench, the war between those trenches, offensive and defensive line battle. That's what it's going to be between Montini versus Mount Carmel as well. Woodstock North versus Woodstock is the game of the week for next week, by the way, just to remind anyone. Westmont versus Wheaton St. Francis. That's going to be a bad game for Westmont, and that's my team. Good luck to Westmont. Plainfield Self at Oswego. That should be an interesting game. Plainfield Central Yorkville, another good game. Plainfield East at Manuka, that's a good game. Actually, you know what? The Southwest Prairie, it's got a lot of great and interesting games for this season. No doubt about that one. Peoria versus Quincy Notre Dame, big game for Peoria versus Quincy Notre Dame. I think I got that the wrong one. I got the wrong game, the wrong one. I do apologize. That's the wrong game. Hopefully, I apologize for that one. Maine South versus Rim. That could be an interesting game. Hersey, no. So that is about it. That's about it for week 3. Deep Dish Football Games of the week. Week 3 reading off IHSA.org. Remember, IHSA Score Zone is the best place to get your scores for the Friday night and into Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. Check it out, IHSA Score Zone on Twitter. And again, please follow Coach Big Pete and Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'll be going more into these games. Tonight, 8 p.m. is Deep Dish Football Live. Be sure you check it out. And again, my email is coachbigpete@gmail.com. Reminder, September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Take no donations, no tips. They all go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. I'll put the link on the bottom. Also, looking for advertisers if interested. If you want your business or product advertised, be sure to check it out. Send me an email, coachbigpete@gmail.com. Have your business or your product advertised on live broadcast, on videos, the whole shebang. If you are interested, and again, have a great week, safe week. This should be a lot of great games on week 3. Thank you so much. My name is Coach Big Pete, Peter Lineweber of DeepDishFootball.com.